We aren't talking about Sargo again?
No. The release hopefully soon, but not yet.
Okay. I better be able to put it in the OTA 15 release notes.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. The OTA
I mean,
numbers are getting too high. I'm starting to forget them.
also we have an OTA 14 branch, so I mean, you can get it if you want. Anybody out there? We have stable.
We have stable. You don't have stable. I suppose if you installed it manually, yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked already, and I provided manual instructions on how to do it, but it's not unofficially.
Okay. Yeah, it's not in the installer yet.
Yeah.
That's still in review, right? You were waiting on
Well,
the fast boot changes, I think.
No, the fast boot thing is already done. I mean, turns out that my testing device has issues booting from the A partition for whatever reason. And now we're switching over to B, and it worked for at least the Bonito user. And yeah, that's the current thing at least.
Why?
I have no clue. It seems to be a bootloader issue. The command is issued definitely. Totally. But yeah, no clue what's going on my phone. In this case, my phone wins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ubuntu Touch Q&A, the UBports Foundation show discussing the development of Ubuntu Touch and our community's questions. This is episode 88, streamed live on November 7th, 2020. My name is Dalton, and joining me, as you heard right there, is Alfred.
Hello.
And Florian is also here.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me, everyone. Glad to see you again. If you want to see if your device is supported by Ubuntu Touch for some reason, you like what we're speaking about, well, you can head over to devices.ubuntu-touch.io. And if your device isn't on that list, it's going to need a custom image made for it. Go to the porting documentation at docs.ubports.com to learn more. Let's start off this week by talking about some Pine 64 news. So, for anyone who owns the Braveheart or UBports Community Edition Pine phones, you can get an upgrade. The newest revision of the Pine phone motherboard is now available in the Pine 64 store. And we wanted to talk about this because they're having a special offer for UBports Community Edition and Braveheart owners. You can get the 3GB and 32GB, that's RAM storage, board for the same price of a 2GB, 16GB board. So that's a pretty good deal. All you'll need is your Braveheart or UBports Community Edition order number, which you send to them along with your order. And they're available while supplies last or until December 31st. They did not ask me to make this announcement in this Q&A. I just decided to do it. Link should be in the video description. I just put it in chat. Jump on that if you are looking for the 3GB Pine phone, but you don't want to buy the whole new thing. You can just upgrade the board in those. Up next, while we're talking about some news, I'm giving a talk next week, Saturday. In fact, it is almost exactly a week from right now, minus a couple hours, at the Linux App Summit 2020. This is a conference that's all about developing apps for Linux, whether proprietary or open source or anything in between. It's all about what we can do as platform owners and what is available to app developers to make better apps for Linux, delivering user experiences that people love. You can find out more about Linux App Summit over at conf.linuxappsummit.org. And otherwise, I'm going to... This is the wrong link. Oh, no. I put the wrong link in the notes. I'm going to put it in the video description when we're finished. But the conference starts on Thursday, November 12th, and goes through Saturday, November 14th. Registration is open now if you'd like to attend. It starts around 800 UTC every day and goes until 2000 UTC. Is that how you say it? Or 2200 UTC for after parties. Should be a fun time. I'm really going to enjoy talking about brickless battery saving with Ubuntu Touch. If you want to know how Ubuntu Touch and other current platforms handle saving battery while still delivering constantly connected applications? Well, that's the talk you're going to want to tune into. Something that I think Linux is behind on. Ubuntu Touch has a pretty good start, but there's still a long ways to go. And if we could all work together on that, man, we could deliver something great.
Thank you. That was really nice that you accepted those talks. We also should be more present, I think, but we need to get more invitations probably. So
yeah, I proposed to. I think the one about users don't use the file system anymore and they want autosaving was a little too spicy for a Linux conference. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Florian, would you like to talk about another new device that is on the hook for us?
Yeah, so that was already on last week, and actually on last Q&A, I was already having kind of a pre-information, but was not allowed to talk about it. And you can think that this was really not easy to not spill the news here prematurely, because they wanted to release it on Tuesday, October 27 or so. So FX Tech Pro1 X is a phone with a physical keyboard, a typical slider phone.
Not flip.
Slide out. Yeah, true, slide out. And it reminds me a little bit of Nokia Communicator from very, very long time ago. Yeah, but that's not the story I want to tell here. Not talk about those physical keyboard thingies, but it's really a cool thing. It has also, of course, a fully functional touch screen. And on top of that, it's the first phone that comes to the market with either an option of Lineage OS or Ubuntu Touch. And those guys, they just rock. They just made nearly everything themselves. We supported a little bit here or there. But they started an Indiegogo campaign that was unveiled on last week, as I said. And they are actually already completely funded, which is, of course, because they basically know how to produce this phone. So this is not in an early stage. They started the campaign already in the production phase. So the cheaper options are already completely filled. I just looked, there are over 600 backers now out there. And it's a beefy device. Not that it only has this physical keyboard. It also comes with a lot of storage. So first of all, it has 8 GB of RAM, which is really amazing. You have 128 gigs or 6 gigs of SD, and you have an HDMI out. So basically, when you use Ubuntu Touch, you can just connect it, put it on the screen, and then you have a really convergent device, as we always wanted to have. One that you can. It's a new device. It's a new hardware, not just an old Nexus 5 that you can use and hope that it survives for the next 5 years. You could buy these as an option to work on it with your mouse and keyboard, with your screen on a desktop, but also take it on the road. What else to say? They closely worked with the XDA community on that, and with us a little bit, as I said. The thing is, they already had experience with a Pro1, which was their previous device, so they are quite experienced with building a phone. So I believe that this thing will really happen. I don't have any doubts about it. We have seen a lot of video footage already. You can also find this on the internet, on the FX Tech homepage, fxtech.com, I think it is. So yeah, that's a great thing. It's just like that the Indiegogo campaign is limited in time. So there's 1 month left where you could order this device. As I said, it's not that cheap, but for somebody that really wants to have a replacement for a small notebook or so that they're carrying around, it would be an interesting option maybe. So it is around $680, 580 euros, something like that. Or actually, just looking a little bit, with the 128 gigs, it might be a little bit cheaper. So yeah, it's a great thing. We're going to see when it lands in the hands of the people if it's really that great as we think. But I believe. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I wish I could I wish I could rationalize purchasing it right now, but I can't with other things going on. But it is just a really exciting device. I can't wait till people get their hands on it.
Yeah, it has a nice blue metallic
the blue
looking
back is
shell.
looking really nice.
It's an engraving with the XDA and with the Yumi logo actually. Yeah, so we have also kind of a quote there for
not to toot our own horn or
community.
anything, you know.
So yeah, that's FX Tech, and they really surprised us with the progress because it just was suddenly there, and yeah, let's do this. So I must say that really blows our minds how this now takes on with hardware being produced that specifically targets or mobile alternatives. Right?
Yeah.
In nearly, and if you think about the time that this was coming up from beginning of Purism and Pine64 doing this, announcing, talking with us on 2018 and before, it's 2.5 years, and the market looks already completely different. So I'm pretty positive that we will see more hardware and more companies going into that.
Don't make predictions now. Your prediction episode is next month.
Okay, sorry. True, yeah.
Although that's probably a prediction that you'll win pretty easily.
Let's see.
Well,
yeah.
You know, the Pro1 X is an Android 9 device. It's running on that hardware compatibility layer. And we just released OTA 14 with many fixes to devices like it. OTA 14 is out, the 14th stable update to the Ubuntu Touch system from UBports. And it was a big focus on Android 9 devices. So there's a lot of fixes to the Android 9 camera, both in the old libcompat layer and in the new GST Droid layer, both available for use. The reason why we picked to work on Android 9 was mainly for the Volophone. It's shipping, period. If not now, then soon. And we had to, fix it up a bit. Swiping away apps didn't work, and that was probably the biggest issue on that thing. So now the Volophone has a stable channel available for it. Of course, stable doesn't mean perfect, but it does mean unchanging for a while. So it's going to be part of the normal update rotation along with all of our other devices now. And while we were working on OTA 14, we also got time to prepare some of the new things coming to OTA 15, with luck, including fixing some of those longer-standing issues that we found in the Qt 5.12 upgrade, which actually Rachanan is messaging me about right now. He has found a way to fix some of them. Or rather, we found the way to fix them, and now we're actually finding a way to automate that fix and get it released.
Praise Rachanan.
Praise Rachanan, the adventurer of GST Droid Land. G-Streamer Land, there we are.
G-Streamer Land, exactly.
Yeah, it's a big release, partially because it was done so quickly. We got OTA 14 done in 34 days of development, and that's that 4 to 6 week release cycle that we want to get back to after our 5-month release of OTA 13.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. This is a return to form.
I think everybody will like this. Yeah, no, but that's really the thing to go. We should push out smaller updates, maybe with the big things, then, or let's say, integrated in a good way. In maybe some things could also stretch out over 2 cycles. Doesn't matter. You can also hide things behind feature flags and developer switches and stuff. So yeah, you can do both. You can release more often and still commit great pieces of code. It's just a matter of hygiene of the development process. But yeah, we had a lot of faster and slower pace in this or that release. I think it's a good way to maybe stabilize this into 2021 a little bit and see if we can get out to regular cycles better.
I mean, we were doing really well for a while. It's just that 5 months we had a bunch of device releases. Oh man, it taught. Yeah. You can tell how good Dalton is feeling by how quickly the Ubuntu Touch releases are actually coming out.
Yeah.
Since I'm the one doing the release most of the time.
Wonderful.
Well, speaking of releasing new things, though, the UBports installer 0.6.0 release is now out as well. 0.6.0 beta is here. It gives you the ability to download your OEM binaries for the Xperia X. So that device had a problem where you needed to install one specific version of Android and then download the OEM binaries for an older version and write them to the device, or be on that specific version of Android before, which you probably couldn't be because you had to upgrade to the newest one. Yeesh. So now the installer will ask you to download the OEM binaries and provide them to it, and it'll flash them for you. Whereas before, it took a few more steps. You'd need to download it yourself, do the fast boot flash. It's just kind of a pain.
And very important, that one was contributed by a community member, which I can't remember right now. I think his name was Retro. Some numbers. I'm sorry, but I had to mention it. You can look it up on GitHub at least.
Retro 486.
Retro 486, yeah. And what this person did was an amazing job, because I just got wind of it very shortly, and soon after that, it was implemented. I was like, yay, cool, awesome.
Nice. This release of the UBports installer also includes support, and it's not hidden behind a feature flag anymore, of reporting status automatically to our OpenCuts open source user testing system. So now we are able to, when we're about to release a version of the UBports installer, we can just have people use it and say if it passed or failed. And then we know if it passed or failed when trying to install things. And it reports devices installed, the operating system you're installing with, all that good stuff, which type of package you're using. It's really nice. It's really slick. If you want to learn more about that, go back to our last episode, the Ubuntu Touch Q&A 86, I think. Or was it 88?
I think it should be 86 already, yeah?
Yeah. Oh. You have to go back to 86, which was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. Big thanks to Jan for that. He's shooting out releases now every week or so, and was also refactoring a big part of code. So he is more or less in Node.js land and Electron land for a long time now, and that's also something that's big kudos, because I couldn't do this.
Yeah, both the UBports installer and OpenCuts are seeing major releases pretty quick.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, now that we've talked about all the things, well, some of the things happening. Geez, I didn't even mention the Redmi.
Yes, new devices in the installer. We also should talk about that.
Yes, the Xiaomi Redmi 4X is available in the installer, and you can install Ubuntu Touch OTA 14. I think I said the device name right that time. Santoni. Provided by Dan C. Nix. Ignore the T. The T is silent. It's nice. It's awesome. We're getting more devices around. People are adding them to the installer. The Nexus 6P, of course, is there too. There's one other, the Sony Xperia Z4 tablet. Yes, I said Z. Yes, I am American. Don't at me.
And while there's a remark from the live chat about the devices are too old that we are supporting, yes, we know. We feel the pain of just being on devices that are now already a little bit behind from the edge of the market, let's say. But building support for new devices is really hard. It takes a lot of time. As we talked about already, the Android 9
and there's so many new ones coming out today.
Yes.
I mean, you're not starved if you want to get a Valiphone or a Pro1 X. I mean, they're all available and they're brand new right now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we should mention, that we have some devices that are already on the level of Android 9, but they have a decent hardware base. They are actually manufactured as new. They are being sold as new. It's just not only used devices that we are supporting. But we know that it would be just great if we can magically flash Ubuntu Touch on every new device, and it's a 5-minute job. Unfortunately, it's not. Some things it's a 5-month job, sometimes it's a 2-year job. And the developer needs to have access to the device. So I cannot buy all the devices myself and just make a huge carousel of devices here and then just start working on this. So it's practically not possible to port for a device if you don't have it in your hands. And that makes the things really complicated.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to have support for a new device he really desperately needs, why not buy one and send it to us? That could help. I mean, I send it back if I don't use it anymore. That's no problem. But so far, nobody has done this, actually. I didn't hear about any of these cases.
Well, there have been offers, but we're just busy.
We got offers for Nexus 5 X to be sent around. For porting.
That's right. It was the 5 X. That one kind of was an exception.
Yeah.
I love this device, but...
yes, there's a guide how to port. Please go to docs.ubports.com. There is our documentation page, and there is a link to a porting process. We are trying to constantly update it. It's sometimes out of date, but there is porting explained, basically. Yeah.
Well, Florian, you're already getting offers for devices sent to you. Good luck.
Yes. Send me something. Yes. Oh, my God. Not 100 at one day. I can only handle one at a time. Okay. Very cool. Yes. PM me on Telegram. I'm Flowhack.
All right. Good luck. I think it's a good time to pause here and thank our sponsors, including our platinum sponsors, Smooze, Vala, Pine64, and Private Internet Access. You're all making it possible for us to create Ubuntu Touch and, run shows like this. None of our sponsors specifically want to be mentioned, or specifically want, I'm sure they want to be mentioned, but ask to be mentioned in this show. We do it because we think we should. I'd also like to thank our community sponsors on Patreon, including Dan Trevino, Robin Hood, Kurt Vaughn, Laszlo Thomas, Darren Olson, That Dog, James H. Jackson Jr., Max Fielder, A. Thiel, Michael Dale Meyer, Casey Lambie, George Toma, Renat Mirkolev, Will Atwood, and Scott Marley. Thank you to all of you for heading over to patreon.com/ubports or finding another way to donate via ubports.com/donate. Those have lower fees for us. And they could be tax deductible depending on your jurisdiction. But it makes it possible for people like me to work full-time on Ubuntu Touch, make content like this that I hope people like, and give talks on what we're doing with Ubuntu Touch, like my talk next week that you all should totally come to, by the way. Again, that's ubports.com/donate. And thank you again to everyone who's making it possible for us to do this. All right, y'all. Why don't we pause here and take some questions? Florian, what's up?
We are ready.
All right. Florian would leave... I need to introduce the topic. We take these questions from our forum every fortnight, and you can find that over at forums.ubports.com. Over in the news section, we have a topic posted, hopefully on Monday before the show. Sometimes it's Wednesday if Dalton is really busy and has to work the election, but that's okay. So let's start off this week, Florian, with McMarius11's question.
Yeah, I hope someday Ubuntu Touch will support a blue light filter. So it's
not a question,
it's
a
feature request. But yeah, it's a reasonable feature request to have. And you're not the only one, because we have been asked this over the last 2.5 years, probably many, many more times. I don't even can count them at the moment. So yeah, this is actually technical difficulty in some way. And I think it's just a matter of prioritization. I mean, we had a lot of things that we ranked higher in priority. I think it's on our backlog. It will eventually come up to a point where we say, okay, now we are ready to take this. But I think we want to finish our migration stuff for Mir and for the Wayland thing before we think about this, right? I have a feeling that this would go in very low level to make sense, so that it really compatible, or it really covers all the apps and all the things happening on the display.
It'll be part of color balancing features, probably inside the display server.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be a Mir thing.
Yeah. And I think that's something it will still take quite some time. But it's on the backlog. We are aware that we don't have it. And yeah, some people from our side also want to have it. So
we're very aware that we don't have it.
yeah. Oh, geez.
Right. Oh, that's not going to make any sense in the audio version. Sorry.
No.
Alfred, next.
Libramux asks, for me, one of the most interesting and exciting elements is the way the UBports project is carried out, with judicious and logical choices for development priorities and sequencing over time. Can you describe a little bit the internal alchemy that makes it possible to achieve this result, if not the fruit of a marvelous hazard?
Well, first, thanks for the flowers. We hold a weekly development sync for our developers, which is open to anyone. But we'd prefer if you only came if you have something to talk about, because space is limited in the meeting room. Where we talk about what's upcoming, what's next, what we've been working on. And we adopt an agile development methodology, at least what makes sense of Scrum and other methodologies for our team. We're doing what makes sense for the team, basically. It's not magic. It might look like it from outside. I'm very glad that someone says that it is good, because I've gotten a lot of "you're doing the wrong things" in the past 4 years. Yeah, it's not a lot of magic. We're listening to what people want. We are looking at what's upcoming between device releases and other things happening around us and deciding what to do based on that.
I mean, it might get a little bit more interesting for community requested features and how we're going to take them in when we have a few roadblocks off the table, like we had in the last 2 years. A lot of things still to adopt, to continue developing stuff that was started or unfinished. I think about how we transitioned to 16.04, which was really due by when we started. Now next transition will be 20.04 and so on. We want to upgrade Qt. We have a lot of stories that are there basically because they are on the roadmap of an external entity. Yeah? So we cannot just say, okay, we are not going to upgrade Ubuntu base because we don't care what Canonical is doing. Of course, we try to follow that. But we made a big progress with that, and I think development capacities will be better than for also community requested things. Like we talked about now, this blue light filter, it could be something that is taken into account when the capacity is relieved of these big things. Yeah? And also the devices that we brought to life with PinePhone and with Volaphone and so on, those were partners, and they had roadmaps that we wanted to join. So we said, okay, this is now a top priority. We want to be on the PinePhone when they're going to ship it. So we didn't have that much choice in the priorities there. But now I think priorities can be, again, discussed in a more flexible way. Yeah? It's not just all hardware enablement and going all for upgrading the big packages. It can also be real small things. Yeah? Mm-hmm. On the other hand, our core app maintainers, they're doing a great job in prioritizing themselves. So we, for example, we don't tell the app maintainer for, I don't know, a messaging app, okay, do this now and do the other thing, don't do the other thing. It's just those things that are not in the core, they are getting self-managed by those people. And that's a great thing because we don't have to do any management capacities there. Yeah? We don't need to interfere with that. We trust those guys already. They find their way, and they are talking with the community as well. So it's already really decentralized in some places.
Yeah, it's not only the core apps. I mean, there are changes to, for example, Media Hub coming along that make better use of, or that allow an app developer, for example, to make use of remote media, remote video and audio inside of an application, and those are all coming out of self-interest, so to say. I mean, we're just people, and we really want to have a fully featured operating system. Some of us do, at least, and we sometimes bring those things to the table, and we basically agree. Yeah, we just go ahead and do it, basically.
Yeah. I hope that's a little bit of a look into our development processes. It's not pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
It works.
It's not magic. It's not a huge methodology. It's not a huge thing. NicoJet asks, how is the move to Halium 7.1 for core devices coming along?
Oh yeah, are we talking about this now for quite some time? I know we are a little bit behind with our schedule that we wanted to have. Currently, we are thinking about how we're going to present the upgrade to the users, or let's say it that way. We don't want to force anyone to change to the Halium build immediately. Because we have our Devil RC stable structure, there should be a kind of a Halium channel for those core devices that people can select that one, install it, and then see how they come along. We get some feedback from it. So we want to have some wide testing before we actually going to put it into Devil channel and then let it rain down until the next OTA when it's unstable. So we're thinking about adding a 4th channel only for those core devices that are we going to move. And we're thinking about the naming. As stupid as it sounds, but should the channel just be called Halium, or is it Halium Preview or something like that? So that's something we have to discuss still. But as soon as we have settled the channel discussion, what's the best way to bring it to the people, it will be just appearing on your device. You can switch to that channel and then everything should be good. It's basically clear that it will work for the OnePlus One and the Nexus 5. It's more or less finished. For the Fairphone 2, we still have also to reorganize a little bit our repositories where we're building this, because we got there a mixture between, let's say, some branches that we need to sort out. But yeah, other than that, all 3 of them are in a quite good state. But we need some testing also from users, and that's why we want to give it into a kind of a preview channel. Maybe that's the best thing we can do. It will be in the installer. It will be supported there. It will also be supported on the device, so you could just go to system settings and then switch channels in the update settings, and then there would be a 4th channel.
Well,
does it make sense?
It's all right, Florian. I mean,
yeah.
There's only one hard thing in development: off by 1 errors and naming things. So
I know. I forgot.
You're
about
already
these
very
3.
close.
You forgot the cache invalidation.
I was thinking off by 1 errors one, but you know.
You're right. So let's have some name fest for it. Yeah. So soon.
I'm sure you'll get it pretty soon. I mean, I named Sudoku just out of complete. Geez, that was such a long time ago. I threw out Sudoku as our project upgrade to 1604, and that worked. Someone will throw something out, you'll say that's it, and then people can actually test it because you've named it.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter what's the name, we just need to make clear what it is and what it should be. A preview.
Oh, boy. All right. Pavoke had a question this week. What are the thoughts about the GSI, the generic system image for Ubuntu Touch? Do you think that could become the official way for supporting newer Android devices? So, to back up a bit, an Android GSI, or generic system image, is a build of Android, or in this case, a build of Ubuntu Touch, including an Android compatibility layer with drivers for many different phones, all built on a standard base. So what do you think, Alfred?
In theory, this is very possible. Practically, we're at it right now. The only problem right now is getting the recovery to work. But as soon as that is finished, we might be seeing devices that are actually using the GSI for installing the Android compatibility layer into the Ubuntu Touch installation. So it's not that far away. It just requires somebody to do it. I mean, for example, the Pixel 3a is also a Halium-based device, but it's not using the GSI. But it has the recovery working. So device-specific builds have the recovery already working. But for GSIs, currently it requires some research, basically, and somebody to do it. But as soon as that is finished, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some GSI devices pretty soon.
Yeah. There's nothing different in like the system image server where we serve updates from for GSI devices. It was actually made with installing any number of images or anything in mind. So it can install like the generic system image and then device specific things on top of the Ubuntu Touch image it already has, which is pretty cool. At least I think it's pretty cool. It can install an arbitrary number of files. Who doesn't like that? Probably people don't care more than anything. His next question was, in a previous Q&A, Dalton mentioned some thoughts about modernizing Ubuntu push infrastructure or so. Is there anything ongoing regarding that? And what about web push support in Morph? I'll take the last one first. Web push support in Morph is completely separate from a proper web push infrastructure for everything else. The browser would be able to handle push notifications as long as it's in the foreground, if that was enabled. Getting pushes in the background would be a little bit more interesting, and why I talked about web push support being the basis for push notifications in the entire system last week. This is actually something I'm going to talk about a little bit in my talk next week at Linux App Summit. Plug. But to summarize, right now, what we have on the system is a daemon, which runs in the background, that checks for push notifications from our server. And the transport mechanism from the server to your device is used by nothing but that specific daemon, and there's no other projects using it. So the chances of getting app support for it are a little bit lower. And it doesn't natively handle web push notifications, which is something that Firefox OS could do, because every app was a web app, and Android devices can do through Firebase web notifications, and Apple doesn't care. So what I proposed last week is that web push became the transport mechanism for all push notifications to Ubuntu Touch devices, including web push to Morph browser, meaning that there would be one endpoint that the daemon would connect to get notifications for the browser or regular apps. And that would also change the app development model so that you would send web push notifications instead of Ubuntu push notifications. That's all stuff that's going to be way in the future and would basically require another project helping us to do it. You know, we would need to get together with another Linux on Mobile project or anyone wanting to make it connected standby work properly in Linux to make something like that happen. Doing it ourselves is pretty unlikely on any reasonable timeline. But again, web push support in Morph, when Morph is in the foreground, is a separate thing entirely and would be more possible. Martine Bram says, /me raises hand. That sounds cool. Maybe you should come to my talk about connected standby next week, and we can make sure that we're on the same page. Otherwise, just PM me, Martine.
One small addition to that, it's also possible that we have adapters in front of our push infrastructure. So for example, for metrics, what we have done is, because metrics protocol has a completely different notion of push because it's kind of distributed, we had to put in front a small gateway or adapter that receives the notification from any metrics server on the planet and just transform it into a compatible one. So that's easily possible. As soon as something pushes to our infrastructure, we could pick it up on the device and display nice messages. Yeah? Yes, definitely. There is some how to say, some potential behind this, but it's really not that easy to create it in a way that's sustainable for us and our things that we have on the device.
Yeah.
That's it's not just a job of a weekend, let's say.
Yeah. That's going to be. First off, it needs to be discussed by the wider community, because I don't get the option to just unilaterally push things that we should do. But yeah, that's my proposal for how to solve the problems we have.
Yeah. Also, just because picking up that from live chat, what about notch support? That's in the category of blue light filter for me. So yes, the new phones have notches. like the Volaphone, for example. For the Volaphone, probably we have to think about a solution sooner or later because we want to be the first-class citizen on Ubuntu Touch. Also round edges, looking at Alfred. Round edges also not looking nice on our Lumiri desktop, that's true. Yeah, we talked about this already a few times, also on Q&A, I think. There is no perfect solution that is easily implementable at the moment. Also, maybe going down to the display server, yeah, and it's on the backlog. It's there, we know it, we feel the pain, but there is no ATA at the moment, I'm sorry.
Right. Ari asks, are there also downsides to the GSI approach compared to building the whole system in a device-specific way? Alfred?
Well,
it's big. It's big.
One of the downsides is definitely the size of it. Definitely, yeah. So you have to ship every library that might be required by some kind of proprietary blob, and it definitely makes the system image way bigger than it would be with a device-specific image. And I think it was like 200 megabytes or so in size difference comparing the Pixel 3a image versus the GSI one. And but most of the things that you get from the GSIs are really benefits. So you get to fix one issue across a bunch of devices. So there are definitely more upsides than downsides to the GSI approach.
Cool. And also the size is an issue on user devices, but most of them have big enough system partitions nowadays. And actually, by making the image the same for everything, the system image server is smart enough to know that it doesn't need to keep remaking it every time. So that's pretty cool. And that also means that if you were to use the UBports installer or something to install a bunch of devices with the GSI, it should only download it once. Again, pretty cool. Just a little aside of cool things that already exist for us.
Canonical smart.
Canonical smart. They have big brain. Joselle13 had some questions about kernels. First, a question about the PinePhone. Will Ubuntu Touch use the X4 file system like other Linux OSs? Yes, and it already does on other devices too. We're already using X4. Everywhere. In fact, you can't use not X4 because of a bug that I put into the Halium boot. Oopsies. And will the exFAT file system be able to be used on all Ubuntu Touch mobiles? No, probably not, because while Microsoft has allowed, I'm not a lawyer, but my interpretation is Microsoft has allowed open source projects using like the mainline Linux kernel to use the exFAT patents like freely. That doesn't automatically mean that all the old devices also get to have it. Additionally, Linux kernel drivers didn't exist for exFAT back in 3.4, except for Samsung's super buggy one that they used on their Android devices. So, no, we probably won't have exFAT file system support available on most Ubuntu Touch devices. And yes, we have X4 file system support on all Ubuntu Touch devices. If you want to use an SD card in your device, it needs to be formatted with FAT32. And then a final kernel question. You guys decide if we want to go on this or if you want to keep going. Ubuntu Touch, I think it is. Will the Pro1 X use the mainline Linux kernel? No.
Nope.
It is using an Android board support package kernel.
Yep.
Florian, you're up.
Yep. There are two more that I took from live chat. VRL Creation asked on the beginning of the show already when Ubuntu Touch will support WhatsApp. As this question has been answered multiple times, of course. First option, Facebook decides to create a native app for Ubuntu Touch that is called WhatsApp. That would be great. I don't think that Facebook will do this. you can try to write to them a letter of petition. We can also sign a petition for it, but I don't think this will work. Second option is they would open up their APIs for third-party clients. No, that's not going to happen probably. I'm very pessimistic about Facebook opening any API for anything. So the only option for you to have WhatsApp running on your device is basically using our Nbox Android container, which is unfortunately not really in a production-ready state, but we are working on this now. And the good news is that we are trying to push forward with Nbox because we can see that this is still relevant for a lot of people. If they could switch to Ubuntu Touch just by having a few of their essential apps. It will still be a little bit of a time until we see improvements in Nbox, but we got somebody now that is interested in working on this, and we are onboarding him right now. So we could have a developer for Nbox finally, maybe even more, but that's not clear at the moment. So if that would work, then, and it's actually now already in the alpha stage of Nbox as it is, you can install WhatsApp, but you don't have push notifications, you don't have integration of media or file exchange, attachments, so on. So no picture taking. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a basic WhatsApp that you can have, but at least it's working in some way. Yeah.
The other option is WhatsApp Web, which is a web app that requires WhatsApp running on an Android phone somewhere else.
By running, it really means to be opened on the Android phone, and the Android phone needs to be switched on. Otherwise, it will disconnect because it's sending all the messages via your phone, actually. That's an interesting thing. So
that's an option. WhatsApp does tend to break it every so often. Maybe on purpose, probably not. But it's another option if you need WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's true.
Our final question today comes from Luri. Will you change the OTA numbering after you switch to Ubuntu 20.04?
And he meant by starting with 20 then. Or
I mean, maybe it's a happy accident. Maybe we'll get to 20 with OTA 20. Otherwise, I'm not going to be too concerned. Maybe we'll change the OTA numbering at some other point. I'm already losing the ability to know which update we're on. So I don't know.
Yeah,
version numbering is another one of those hard problems that no matter what we do, people will be upset. So what's the point?
Call the next OTA Rose Garden. I don't know. Maybe that makes more sense to us.
I don't know, but we have those pretty cool tangram images that Joanne contributes that we put on the blog posts and don't really do much else with. Maybe we could start naming OTAs after the animals that we put in the tangram pictures.
Yep.
Anyway, that was the Ubuntu Touch Q&A. 88. Wow. If you liked what we were talking about in this episode, you want to get Ubuntu Touch on your device. It is an awesome mobile operating system after all. You want to know if your device is supported? You can head over to devices.ubuntu-touch.io. If your device isn't on the list, it's going to need a custom image made for it. Go to the porting documentation at docs.ubports.com to learn more. The fun doesn't stop here. You can find us on all sorts of social media, including Facebook, Twitter, PixelFed, Mastodon, LinkedIn, banning Florian from the chat, Instagram, Telegram News, and Matrix News if you just want our news in your chat client. Or if you want to chat with us, you can find us on Matrix, Telegram, hash UBports and at UBports respectively, or forums.ubports.com for longer form content. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ubuntu Touch Q&A. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.